Okay, let's just dive right in. You thought you kicked it, didn't you? The nail fungus, you did the whole treatment, maybe things even looked better for a bit, and then boom, it's back.
Huh.
That nasty yellowing, the thick nail, maybe even that smell.
Yeah.
It's that whole frustrating nail fungus comeback cycle. And if this sounds like depressingly familiar, you are definitely not the only one.
Oh, absolutely not. It's incredibly common. Our deep dive into the sources really highlights this. We're looking at recurrence rates potentially hitting, what, 53%?
Mm-hmm.
Within just 3 years.
53%. Wow.
Yeah. And even the standard treatments, the ones people usually try first, their complete cure rates are often only somewhere between, say, 35% and maybe 76% at best.
Okay, so right off the bat, if you're dealing with this coming back again and again, it's probably not something you're doing wrong specifically. It's the nature of the beast, partly.
That's a good way to put it. It's the nature of the infection, and honestly, it highlights limitations in some of the common ways we try to treat it. So our mission today, looking at this material, is to figure out why this keeps happening, why the cycle, and, more importantly, how you might actually break free from it permanently. We'll dig into some surprising mistakes people make, why the usual stuff often doesn't cut it, and explore these natural solutions that seem to go after the root cause.
All right, let's get into that root cause then. What is it about nail fungus, this onychosis you called it? What makes it just so darn persistent?
Well, the key thing from the sources is realizing it's not just like sitting on top of your nail. It's not superficial. It's a deep infection. It gets right down into the nail bed, that skin underneath, and even the nail matrix.
The matrix, that's where the nail actually grows from, right?
Exactly. So it's infecting the factory, essentially.
Yeah.
And the skin all around it, too.
Ah, so it's like that garden analogy in the material. You can cut the tops off the weeds, but if you don't get the roots.
Precisely. You're just dealing with the visible part, not the actual source. Plus, these fungal organisms, they are tough. They just love warm, damp places. They, inside your shoes all day. And they can basically just hang out, kind of dormant, for months, waiting.
So when you think, oh, great, I've got a new infection, it might actually just be the old one waking up.
Very often, yeah. It never fully went away. It was just lying low, waiting for conditions to be right again. That resilience is a huge piece of why we see those really high recurrence numbers.
Okay, so it's deep, it's tough. Got it. But the source material also really hammered on some critical mistakes people tend to make, things that actually keep them in that cycle. What are those?
Yeah, there were 5 big ones that stood out. The first one, and this is probably huge, is stopping the treatment too early.
Oh, I can totally see that happening. The nail starts looking a bit better, maybe less yellow, and you think, phew, done.
It's completely understandable. But the material really stresses this. Treatment isn't just about making it look okay for now. It's about total eradication, getting rid of it completely through the whole nail structure. And here's the kicker fact. A healthy toenail. It takes a full 12 to 18 months to grow out completely, base to tip.
12 to 18 months.
Yep. So if you stop treatment after, say, 2 or 3 months just because the worst of it looks gone, you are almost definitely leaving fungal spores behind deep down, waiting.
Okay, that really puts it in perspective. It's like stopping your antibiotics halfway through just because you feel better.
Exactly the same principle. You're basically inviting it to come back.
Okay, crystal clear. Mistake number 1, impatience. What's number 2?
Number 2 ties right back to that deep-rooted thing we talked about. It's relying only on a surface-only treatment approach. Most of the over-the-counter creams and liquids, and even some prescription topicals, they just don't penetrate well enough.
I can't get through the nail itself.
Right. They can't easily get down to where the fungus is really living in that nail bed and the matrix.
Back to the tree analogy again. Just trimming the leaves, not touching the root system.
You got it. The material actually cited a stat, many topical antifungals. They achieve less than 5% penetration through that dense nail plate.
Less than 5%. So you could be putting it on religiously every day, thinking you're doing the right thing.
And barely any of it is reaching the actual infection site. It's fighting the wrong battle, or at least on the wrong level. Okay, mistake number 3, ignoring the environment. Your nail isn't living in a vacuum.
Meaning, like, your shoes, your bathroom.
Exactly. The environment around your feet is crucial. The sources listed common slip-ups here: wearing the same shoes day after day, not letting them fully dry out inside. Big mistake. Not dealing with dampness in your home, like steamy bathrooms. Sharing stuff like clippers or towels, definite no-no. And a really big one, ignoring other fungal infections you might have, like athlete's foot. That can easily jump back to the nails.
Ah, so you treat the nail perfectly, but the fungus is just waiting in your favorite sneakers or on the bath mat to hop back on.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Constant re-exposure. Okay, number 4 is related to your body's own defenses, weakening the immune system.
How does immunity play into nail fungus?
Well, your immune system fights all invaders, fungi included. The material pointed out that some conventional treatments might actually suppress local immunity in that area, making it harder for your body to naturally clean up any remaining fungus. But also broader things, lifestyle factors mentioned in the sources like chronic stress, not eating well, lack of sleep, those can seriously weaken your overall immune response.
So your body's just not in fighting shape to help out.
Exactly. It lowers your defenses, making you more susceptible to the infection getting a foothold or coming back if it wasn't fully gone. And the 5th critical mistake, having a one-size-fits-all treatment mentality.
Meaning what works for one person won't necessarily work for another.
Precisely. The sources explain there isn't just one kind of nail fungus. There are different species, and they can respond differently to different treatments. So what worked for your buddy, or maybe even what worked for you 5 years ago, might not cut it this time. Plus, there's the issue of potential resistance developing over time, especially with repeated exposure to certain drugs.
Okay, those 5 mistakes: stopping too soon, surface only, ignoring environment, weak immunity, and the one-size-fits-all idea, they really show why this is so tricky. Let's talk more about those conventional treatments. The material suggests they often fail, even beyond user error. What are their built-in limitations?
Yeah, they stem from those issues, but the sources elaborated. For topical antifungals creams, lacquers, the big hurdle, as we said, is that poor penetration.
Still that less than 5% number?
Often, yes. That nail plate is just a really effective barrier, so the medicine struggles to reach the fungus deep inside.
Okay, makes sense. But what about the oral medications? Pills like terbinafine, itraconazole, they go through your whole system. Surely they get there.
They do circulate systemically, yes, and they can be more effective at reaching the site. But the material laid out some pretty significant challenges with those too. First, there's the whole issue of potential side effects, and they can be serious.
Like what?
We're talking risks like liver damage, potential heart problems, interactions with other drugs you might be taking. It often means needing regular blood tests to monitor things.
Yikes. That's not trivial.
Not at all. A lot of people can't take them for health reasons, or they choose not to because of those risks. But even if you can take them, there's still the problem of incomplete penetration, even orally.
How can that be if it's in your blood?
Because blood circulation to the nail bed and matrix isn't actually that great compared to other parts of your body. The material noted this, so even with the drug circulating, getting a high enough concentration delivered specifically to where the fungus is deeply embedded can still be a challenge.
So the delivery system, even via the bloodstream, isn't super efficient for nails.
Interesting. Right. And then there's the issue the material highlighted, resistance. Overuse can lead to fungal strains that just don't respond well anymore. And critically, often these oral meds tend to suppress the fungus rather than completely wiping it out.
Which brings us right back to the comeback cycle again.
Exactly. And this suppression can lead to what the sources call the rebound effect. The fungus gets knocked down, not out. Treatment stops, and bam, it can come roaring back, sometimes even worse than before. Especially if the treatment also messed up the balance of good microbes on your skin that normally help keep the bad fungi in check.
Okay, so conventional options have some real hurdles: penetration issues, side effects, resistance, suppression, not elimination. What's the alternative path then? The materials seem to lean towards a different philosophy.
It did. It shifts the focus to what's called a root cause approach. The idea isn't just kill the fungus. It's more about changing the underlying conditions, creating an environment where fungus simply hates living.
Okay, so what kind of environment does fungus love that we need to mess up?
The sources list the perfect fungal paradise. Warm, moist, a pH that's too alkaline. Fungus generally dislikes acidity, low oxygen, plenty of dead stuff like skin cells to feed on, and being shielded from anything naturally antifungal. The natural approach aims to disrupt all of that, make it really inhospitable.
Right, change the terrain so the invader can't set up camp anymore.
Precisely. And that's where these natural antifungal compounds come in, as described in the material. They don't usually work like a single target drug. They often have multiple actions. They can mess with the fungal cell walls, stop them reproducing, but also, and this is key, they can help boost your own local immune response right there. They can help restore a healthier, slightly acidic pH, improve circulation to bring more nutrients and immune cells, and even support the growth of healthy new nail tissue.
So they're doing more than just attacking. They're helping rebuild and defend, too.
Exactly. It's a multi-pronged approach. And the material specifically pointed to essential oils as being particularly interesting for this.
Why essential oils? What's special about them?
Well, the sources highlighted a few advantages. They're multimodal action, they do lots of things at once, creating that hostile environment while supporting tissue health. They also seem to have naturally better penetration properties sometimes, helping them get through the nail barrier more effectively than some synthetic topicals. Plus, they can offer immune support locally, kind of nudging your body's defenses in the right direction. And many have anti-inflammatory properties, which helps break that cycle of chronic inflammation, often seen with stubborn infections.
That makes sense. It's like a coordinated attack plus support crew. Which specific oils did the material call out?
Several key players were mentioned. Tea tree oil is a big one. Contains terpene and phorol. Its effectiveness has actually been compared to prescription antifungals in some studies. Good penetration, plus it's antibacterial too.
Yeah, tea tree is pretty well known.
Right. Then there's oregano oil. Very potent stuff. Contains carvacrol and thymol. The sources noted it's powerful even against some drug-resistant fungal strains. Lavender oil was mentioned as antifungal, but also really good for helping tissue regenerate, which is great for healing. Lemongrass oil contains citral, good at disrupting fungal cell membranes, stopping growth. And clove oil. Rich in eugenol, a very potent antifungal. And it has a nice side effect of being slightly pain-relieving too.
Wow, that sounds like a powerful toolkit. Do you just dab these straight on?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
The material was very clear on the importance of carrier oils. Essential oils are super concentrated. You must dilute them. But carrier oils aren't just for dilution. They have their own benefits. They really help with penetration, carrying those active compounds through the nail. Many provide good stuff like vitamin E, have anti-inflammatory effects, and support the skin barrier around the nail. The sources mentioned oils like jojoba, sweet almond, and sunflower as good examples.
Okay, so it's the blend, the essential oils, plus the right carrier oil working together.
Exactly. Synergy is the key concept here. The material really emphasized the power of synergistic formulations. When you combine these ingredients thoughtfully, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. You get better penetration, you can target a broader range of fungal species, you support healing at the same time, and it makes it much harder for the fungus to develop resistance compared to just hitting it with one single drug molecule.
The sources mention a specific product, Care Essentials, as an example of this kind of formulation.
Yes, Care Essentials was discussed as an example applying these principles. It uses a blend of these types of beneficial oils and other supporting ingredients. The points highlighted were things like using optimal concentrations, getting the dose right for effectiveness and safety, designing for enhanced penetration, providing comprehensive action, not just antifungal, but supporting nail and skin health overall, and focusing on quality sourcing of the natural ingredients.
So it's about taking that understanding of how nature works and putting it together intelligently, a strategic, multi-layered approach.
That's the essence of it. The material presents it as working with your body's own processes while making life miserable for the fungus. And crucially, it's designed for that consistent, long-haul application needed to really break the cycle for good.
Right, the long haul. That brings us to the practical plan. If someone's going down this natural route, what does that commitment actually involve? How long are we really talking?
The material was really upfront about this.
Yeah.
You need to be thinking in terms of a 12-month commitment, minimum.
A full year. Wow, that sounds like a lot when you first hear it.
It can feel that way, but the sources explain why. That time frame covers the full nail regeneration cycle we talked about, 12 to 18 months, for that new, healthy nail to completely replace the old, infected one. It allows time to really ensure the elimination of those dormant spores, time for proper environmental cleanup shoes, socks, surroundings, and, importantly, time to strengthen your immune system so your body can resist it coming back.
Okay, so patience isn't just a virtue here, it's required. What does the day-to-day look like?
Consistency is key. The material suggested a daily treatment protocol. Typically a morning application, clean, dry feet, let the product absorb before you put on socks and shoes. Then, repeat it in the evening. Really focusing on getting it around the cuticles, into the nail folds, those little crevices where fungus loves to hide. And maybe adding a weekly deep treatment like a longer soak or a more generous application, letting it sit for a while.
Twice daily plus a weekly boost. Makes sense. What about that environmental piece? The shoes and stuff?
Environmental management is presented as non-negotiable if you want to avoid reinfection. The practical steps detailed were footwear rotation. Simple but effective. Never wear the same pair 2 days running. Let them air out completely. UV sanitization. Using sunlight or a UV shoe sanitizer device to actually kill spores lingering in your shoes. Moisture control. Using moisture-wicking socks, maybe antifungal powders or sprays in shoes or on feet, and checking your home environment for damp spots, especially bathrooms, maybe basement areas.
Keeping that whole foot zone dry and fungus unfriendly seems critical. And how does general health fit in? Diet, lifestyle.
Hugely important, according to the sources. Nutrition and lifestyle support directly impacts your body's ability to fight back. Things like an immune-supporting diet, plenty of vitamin C, D, E, zinc, maybe probiotics. Stress management is big because chronic stress definitely dampens immune function. Getting adequate sleep, that's when your body does its repair work, including on the immune system. And regular exercise helps improve circulation, getting blood flow, nutrients, and immune cells down to those tricky areas like your toes.
Right, it really is treating the whole system, not just the nail.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing all this. How do you know it's working? What should you expect to see, and when? Because a year is a long time to wait.
Managing expectations is key. The material laid out a likely timeline for monitoring progress. Don't expect miracles overnight. In the first month, you might notice things like less itching or discomfort, maybe less odor if that was an issue, slight improvement in appearance perhaps, and definitely the skin and cuticles around the nail looking healthier.
Okay, small wins early on to keep you motivated.
Exactly. Then, months 2 to 6, this was described as a critical period. This is where you might feel impatient because the nail still looks visibly affected. But this is when the real change starts underneath. You should begin to see clear, healthy nail growth emerging from the base, from the matrix. The texture might improve. Symptoms keep reducing. You're watching that new nail slowly push the old one out.
Ah, so you're tracking that new growth coming in clean.
Precisely. Then, months 6 to 12, that's when you should really start seeing significant results. Much more clear nail visible, stronger, healthier looking growth overall. And because you've been consistent for so long, the risk of recurrence should be way down.
That makes the long timeline feel more manageable, seeing those stages. But when should someone think, okay, maybe this natural approach isn't enough for my case? Are there red flags?
Yes, the material did list some red flags indicating when to seek additional medical help. Good to be aware of. Signs of a secondary bacterial infection, like increasing redness, swelling, pain, maybe pus. That needs checking out. If the fungal infection seems to be worsening rapidly despite treatment, or spreading quickly to multiple nails, or if you develop systemic symptoms like a fever or swollen glands nearby, those could signal something more serious requires a doctor's evaluation.
Okay, good to know. So let's fast forward. Someone's put in the time, done the work, nails are clear, amazing. How do they keep it that way? How do you prevent round 3 or 4?
Prevention really becomes the name of the game long term. It's about building fungus-resistant habits. The material recommends basics like diligent daily hygiene, wash feet well, especially between toes, and dry them thoroughly. Proper nail care. Keep them trimmed straight across, filed smooth, avoid damaging the cuticles. Those are protective barriers. Choosing breathable shoes when you can, natural materials. And always wear flip-flops or shower shoes in public wet areas, pools, gyms, locker rooms.
Seems like smart foot hygiene, basically.
It is. And continuing to focus on creating an inhospitable environment. Maybe using products that help maintain a slightly acidic pH on the skin there. Ongoing moisture control powders, sprays if needed, especially if you sweat a lot. Regularly sanitizing your nail tools after every single use. And sticking with moisture-wicking socks, changing them if they get damp.
Those sound like things you can just integrate into your routine permanently.
They really are. And the material also suggested a sort of natural maintenance routine even after success. Not necessarily the intensive daily treatment, but maybe, say, a weekly application of a protective antifungal oil blend, an occasional antifungal soak. Just staying mindful of the environmental stuff and keeping up with immune support through diet and lifestyle, it's about vigilance.
We've talked a lot about the physical side, but dealing with this over and over, it must mess with your head too.
Oh, definitely. The material acknowledged the mental game. The sheer frustration, the anxiety, sometimes embarrassment people feel. It's so important to remember, if you're listening and struggling, you're really not alone. And understanding that these natural solutions do take time helps frame why consistency is crucial. Celebrating those small improvements we talked about becomes really important for staying motivated through that longer process.
Yeah, focusing on progress, not just perfection, especially early on. Was there mention of getting support?
Yes. Building a support system. The material suggested finding healthcare providers who get it, who support natural or integrative approaches, using good educational resources, maybe connecting with online communities for shared experiences, or even seeking guidance from, like, a naturopathic doctor or an integrative practitioner who understands these methods.
Makes sense. Don't go it alone. And lastly, what about the cost? These natural products, the time commitment,
Yeah.
how does that stack up economically?
That was addressed too, the economics of natural treatment. The perspective offered was to view it as a long-term investment. Compare the costs. With this approach, you generally don't have ongoing prescription copays. Usually no need for costly lab monitoring like with some oral drugs. You potentially avoid the costs associated with treating side effects. And crucially, if it leads to lower recurrence rates, you save money by not having to keep treating the same problem over and over. Plus, it's the value of just feeling confident and comfortable with your feet again. That quality of life improvement is hard to put a price tag on.
That's a really good point. Investing upfront in a solution that might actually last could be way more cost-effective and just better than being stuck in that cycle.
That's definitely the argument presented in the material.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, the main takeaway feels pretty clear.
I think so. Breaking free from that nail fungus comeback loop, it seems totally possible. But it really requires a shift in thinking. It's not just about throwing killers at the fungus temporarily. It's about understanding why it persists, that deep-seated nature, its toughness, the environment helping it, and then focusing on changing that environment, making it hostile to fungus, while simultaneously supporting your body's own healing and defense mechanisms.
And the sources we looked at make a strong case that natural approaches, especially these well-designed synergistic formulations, could offer a more sustainable long-term path working with your body.
Exactly. If you give them the time, the consistency, and follow that strategic root cause approach.
Patience, consistency, strategy. It sounds like the trifecta.
Pretty much, it really boils down to a choice based on this info. You can sort of stay on the hamster wheel of temporary fixes and likely recurrences. Or you could choose to invest the time and effort in a natural, comprehensive approach that targets the root causes. It really prompts the question, what are healthy, clear nails actually worth to you? In terms of confidence, comfort, just freedom from dealing with it? And what level of commitment are you willing to make to achieve that?